I'm Dan Clevenger, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Peru in 1969, 1970. Finally, about I think it was, I don't really even know, but at least it was it must have been about 6 weeks, we were finally gotten out of Chimbote by the Peace Corps. We were sent back to Washington, D.C., and so my next memory is Washington, D.C., and boy, talk about a culture shock. Talk about, again, another surrealistic experience. Coming from Peru, very earthy, you know, very, the colors of New Mexico, you know, the adobe buildings, into a modern city, Washington, D.C. And I'll never forget, one time they put us up in a hotel. We took an elevator down to a cafe down in the basement. We walked in and we were stunned. I can remember just standing there just, oh, because everything in that room was plastic. The clock was plastic. The chairs were plastic. The table was plastic. The trays were plastic. The spoons and forks and knives were plastic. The food was plastic. I mean, everything was plastic. It was such a shock, you know, culture shock. I can remember walking down the street and there were Hare Krishna people out. They scared the heck out of me. I'm pretty sympathetic to them now, but then I thought, what is going on? We were there for about 4 months, 5 months or so, 4 months, time enough to get an apartment. I got a job in a restaurant down by the White House, washing dishes. Down in the basement. Well, the basement was like carved out of the earth down there, and he had shelves with the food, you know, in large cans and bottles, but right there against the earth, and yet the White House was right there. It was so strange. I remember arguing with the owner of the restaurant though, about the Vietnamese War. But it was very weird. One of the things that happened to me, and again, I'm talking more about myself because my memory of what happened to Anne is a lot less. I worry about that, but I just don't have memories of what she was up to very much. I had to deal with my draft number. I was number 69. The Vietnamese War was going on, and boy, now I was going to be drafted. So I joined the National Guard in Washington, D.C., which was about the only place you could join it. And the National Guard was basically black. And there I was, white guy in a black outfit. I thought that was pretty interesting. After about 4 months, we got some counseling. I remember seeing the $10,000 checks for the 4 deceased volunteers on a desk and being reminded of them. But after we were counseled, we went to, you know, we did see some psychologists, maybe psychiatrists. I know the both of us did. We finally were ultimately terminated from the Peace Corps for medical reasons and sent back to New Mexico. So I had to go in and talk to the sergeants. Boy, were they mad. They thought I had gamed them. They said, if you've got 60 days, young man, to get yourself into another National Guard outfit. If not, you'll be back here, and we're going to make you clean this entire place. You bring, you know, 24 cases of toothbrushes, because you're going to be cleaning everything here with a toothbrush. Anyway, that was another strange experience. One bizarre experience after another one. From the moment of that earthquake. It was, you know, just very odd, and then you're in survival mode. You're not really processing what's happening, you're just trying to survive. And that was true in Washington. But I had to go up to Fort Lewis and Washington State for my basic training. Somehow I gathered myself together and went up there. But while I was going up there, Anne had a nervous breakdown. and it was in a psychiatric hospital. And her doctors, and I didn't have anything to do with this because I didn't know anything about it, they decided they wanted me back in Albuquerque. So they got me a hardship furlough through the Red Cross. I can remember my commanding officer in Washington wasn't in Fort Lewis, wasn't very happy with that. That's a whole other story, but he couldn't do anything about it. So I come back down to Albuquerque. And she was in such bad shape, and there's all kinds of stories about seeing her in the psychiatric hospital. It was dark, it was dingy. I go in there, I see her over in the corner. She's sitting down on the ground, she's holding hands with some other guy. It was just, again, a mind-blowing, surrealistic, weird. They didn't prepare her for that I was coming. Oh, I mean, one crazy event after another. Well, they eventually got me a hardship discharge from the Army, so I never had to go back to Fort Lewis. But so Ann and I she finally came out of the hospital. We got another apartment, of course, because she had lost, you know, our first apartment because she was in the hospital and I was up at Fort Lewis, which was a much worse place in a tougher part of town, and that wasn't very nice. But I was going to go into law school then at UNM, at University of New Mexico. But I can remember lots of chaos, and I remember having the thought, I don't know if I want to be married to somebody who's mentally ill. She was very in bad shape. So bad that the doctors got me out of the Army, for heaven's sake. So we separated. And I guess I think I went back to live with my folks for a little while, and she went back to Santa Fe to live with her grandmother and her cousin, who had a beautiful, beautiful adobe house on the east side of Santa Fe, worth now $1 million or more, certainly. But we separated and you know, kind of drifted apart. Eventually we got divorced. Although the divorce wasn't final until my last year of law school. Well, I can go on. It wasn't until 35 years later at a reunion at the law school where I ran into some friends there who had been married during law school, and we were talking, and they were saying, you know, how wonderful law school was, because, you know, I helped him or I helped her through law school, and we worked together, and we got ourselves through law school, and we got a job, and then, you know, we had family. We supported each other. And I thought to myself, that wasn't my law school experience. No, I was on my own. I can remember one of the professors saying to us in domestic relations class, remember, when you have clients that are getting divorced, they've been hit by a truck, an invisible truck, but they're hurting bad. Out of control. And there I was, having come back from this earthquake, getting divorced. I mean, I don't know how I survived. Anyway, that's what this reunion kind of kicked it off. And then I went to a doctor, and he gave me some Paxil. And I realized, oh, this is what it's like not to be depressed. I had been depressed for the whole time. Not so depressed that I couldn't get out of bed and go to work. You know, I did have a legal career. I got through law school. I've been divorced 3 times. I'm on my 4th wife. She's wonderful. But looking back, that earthquake totally changed the trajectory of my life in a negative way. We have had some Peace Corps gatherings here in Farmington, you know, and we passed the talking stick. And I had that same experience where most everybody had a wonderful experience. They bonded with their mate or their mate-to-be, interacting with the people and feeling productive. And myself, and there was another gal at one of these meetings that she'd suffered a similar kind of thing where she had been attacked after 4 or 5 months in the Peace Corps by somebody who was deranged and knocked her over the head with a stick or something, and she was in a coma, and the Peace Corps got her out of wherever she was, which was the Caribbean, and she never was able to complete her Peace Corps experience. But she and I shared that with this group in Farmington, and it was the first time that she had said that she had talked about that with anybody, and it was because it was Peace Corps volunteers that she could share this with. And I was very similar thing. I shared my experience, and I have wonderful memories of what the Peace Corps was before the earthquake, and of what might have been, but it ended. And of course, I'm not the only one. There's this other young lady, and of course there's illnesses, there's accidents, there's natural disasters, there's wars. Who knows what Peace Corps volunteers have to deal with in their host countries. I mean, you know, it's not necessarily entirely a wonderful experience. There are challenges. But anyway, that's kind of a summary of my experience. I honor the Peace Corps. I have wonderful memories of what was happening, but I am very sad and sorrowful about that earthquake. And I am very sympathetic then to those people who suffer in the new earthquakes, the Fukushima earthquake, or the Haitian earthquake, or wars, Iraq, Afghanistan. I can't imagine the post-traumatic stress that our soldiers, our men and women, the civilians in those countries must experience. Because my experience lasted a minute. Of course, there was maybe 6 weeks of chaos after that. But I mean, the danger was essentially gone. And how you deal with day after day after day of danger in a war zone is beyond me. But anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Thank you very much, Ernie, and thank you for doing this project. It's very, very valuable. I am planning on going back to Peru. In fact, I've made some contacts. I'm going to go back to Peru. I know where Anne is, but I haven't been able to really get her to communicate with me very well. But I am writing this stuff up. Letters to Anne about what we went through. And I've got some stuff on my computer in this way. And it was and the reunion at the law school, and then the Farmington Peace Corps reunions were what helped me to begin to share this and to kind of unburden myself of this experience. So thank you for this.
Thank you.